Okay, so let's talk about the Salt March. Back in 1930, the most powerful empire on the entire planet was shaken to its core by a protest over salt. Yeah, you heard that right, salt. Today, we're going to break down how this incredible event became a masterclass in political strategy and how a simple kitchen staple turned into a revolutionary weapon.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How could a tiny pinch of salt actually pose a threat to the massive British Empire? Well, to get it, you have to look past the seasoning itself and see the incredibly powerful symbol it had become.
All right, to really understand the power of this movement, we've got to start with the spark that lit the whole fuse: a tax on salt. Seems simple, but it was anything but.
So, British rule in India had been around for a while, starting as a trading company and then growing into direct imperial control. But this salt tax, this was different. This wasn't just some abstract economic policy. Salt is a biological necessity. You need it to live. By controlling it and taxing it, the British created a law that reached into every single home, affecting every single Indian, rich or poor, every single day. It became this perfect, infuriating symbol of colonial arrogance.
By this point, the political tension was already at a boiling point. In 1929, the Indian National Congress basically drew a line in the sand. They issued an ultimatum: grant India full independence or face a massive nationwide campaign of civil disobedience. The stage was set for a huge showdown.
So, a major confrontation is coming. But the leader of this movement, Mahatma Gandhi, had a completely revolutionary approach in mind. Let's dig into the philosophy that was going to guide every single decision he made. The entire movement was built on this one incredibly powerful idea: satyagraha. Now, it's often translated as nonviolent resistance, but it's really much more active than that. It literally means holding fast to the truth. See, the goal wasn't just to oppose the British. It was to seize the moral high ground. The idea was to fight in a way that was so spiritually powerful that any violent response from the empire would look completely illegitimate.
And make no mistake, this was not some spontaneous protest. Oh no, this was a meticulously planned campaign. Gandhi started by sending a letter to the viceroy laying out his demands, very formally. Then he followed up with the perfect symbolic act, this epic march to the sea. From there, he called for mass participation all across the country. And this part is genius. He even planned for his own arrest, setting up a clear chain of command so the movement could continue without him. Every single step was calculated for maximum impact.
So now let's get to the march itself. You have to picture this. It was an act of political theater on an absolutely epic scale, designed to capture the imagination of not just India, but the entire world. The whole journey kicked off on March 12th, with just Gandhi and 78 followers. But as they walked, it just became this phenomenon. Thousands of people lined the roads, and so many joined the procession. And the timing of the arrival? Pure strategic genius. Gandhi planned to reach the sea on April 6th, which was the anniversary of the brutal Amritsar massacre. It was a powerful way to link the memory of past British violence with this new, non-violent challenge to their rule. And just to put this into perspective, think about that distance for a second: 241 miles. On foot. That's like walking from New York City almost to Washington, D.C. It was a testament to the incredible physical and spiritual commitment of these protesters. An epic journey in every sense of the word. So, after 24 long days and 241 miles, it all came down to this single moment. Gandhi reaches the sea, he bends down, he picks up a handful of salty mud, and performs this simple act of defiance. By illegally making salt, he was symbolically breaking the law and signaling to millions of people that the empire's authority was no longer absolute. As he said himself, he was shaking the foundations of British rule.
So, a single symbolic act of defiance had just been committed. Now let's look at the explosive aftermath, the reaction from both the Indian people and, of course, the British authorities.
The British response was swift and, frankly, pretty predictable. They arrested Gandhi in the middle of the night. It's the classic tactic, right? Cut off the head of the snake. They figured if they removed the leader, they'd kill the movement. But boy, was that a massive miscalculation. And this is exactly where Gandhi's brilliant foresight paid off. With him in prison, leadership passed to the famous poet Sarojini Naidu. As protesters got ready to march on the Darasana salt works, she gave them these chillingly clear instructions. "You will be beaten," she told them, "but you must not resist. You must not even raise a hand to ward off the blows." What happened next was absolutely horrific, and it completely changed how the world saw the British Empire. Unarmed protesters just advanced calmly, wave after wave, right towards the saltworks. They were met by soldiers who just brutally beat them with steel-tipped clubs. And the marchers, they never raised a hand in defense, and the whole world was watching. International journalists were there, documenting the sickening violence, and their reports exposed the brutal reality behind the so-called civilized British Empire. The crackdown was absolutely massive. In the months that followed, over 60,000 Indians were arrested. 60,000. But this mass repression completely backfired. Instead of crushing the movement, it just proved the depth of the people's commitment and further destroyed British authority in the eyes of the world.
Okay, so the march caused this massive, immediate crisis for the British. But what was its lasting impact? Let's take a look at the long-term legacy of this incredible campaign.
So what was the final scorecard here? Well, in the short term, India didn't get independence right away. But the long-term victories, they were immense. The march completely shattered the moral authority of the British. It united Indians from all different regions and classes into a single cause. And it ripped away the empire's facade of civility, exposing its violent core for the whole world to see. And this quote from Jawaharlal Nehru, who would become India's first prime minister, just captures it perfectly. He said, "The Salt March made people in villages for the very first time begin to think a little in terms of India as a whole. It took the abstract idea of India and made it real for millions of ordinary people, forging a true national identity." And here's the crucial takeaway. While independence wouldn't actually come for another 17 years, the Salt March was the point of no return. It seized the narrative, it seized the moral initiative from the British, and it proved that the Indian people were a united and unstoppable force. It really was the beginning of the end for the British Raj. And all of this leaves us with one final thought. The Salt March is still a masterclass in strategy, symbolism, and disciplined nonviolence. Which really begs the question, what can modern movements fighting for justice today learn from the simple yet world-changing act of picking up a handful of salt?